Hey guys, it's Evan. I'm going to try and put my headphones on, I suppose. Mine. So, this is supposed to be for my ukulele. This is supposed to be my plucking hand, like my strumming hand. And this is supposed to be my note hand. And my hands are backwards. So, I could probably play guitar, but my ukulele right now, pretty backwards right now. Let me get my headset. It's across the room. So I am just now getting into a place in my life where I can actually sit down and think and write. And my health has improved since Friday, like so much. And I owe that to this guy named Sam who informed me that there's a local community center where I can take classes and let me get my headset because I have to kind of like be quiet. My sibling has a phone call in about 30 minutes. And so, just really quickly, like, I had this photo the entire time I was homeless, and it survived my homelessness, and the bed bug is right there to prove it. It's dead, and it's only one that survived all these years. Don't worry, I sprayed all over the place, and when I first saw that bed bug, I was super like triggered, and I think I shut down because I was like, well, I have fought so hard to. I mean, I'm still by definition homeless, but I have fought so hard to get myself out of the shelter and out of those circumstances. And to see a bed bug was just like it really did set me back. I bought bed bug spray from Home Depot and everything, and like triple exterminated the house, and then exterminators came to a pest control came and sprayed outside. Don't worry, there's no bed bugs here. Never has been. Just that one that was inside that sleeve. And so mentally in the back of my mind, I knew that I had to submit these documents to arbitration. And this past week, I dealt with these phony, threatening, spammy, fishy, scammy phone calls I've received. And of course, the week of the final document I'm supposed to submit. And I don't think any of that had anything to do with like my delay in submitting the document at all. I think I kind of after I submitted, so I had to submit. I've been ordered to clarify the claims, like what I'm alleging Tesla, the crimes Tesla committed against me, towards me, and towards the country and towards the world, so that their defense can represent them. And allegedly. So I think I've been pretty good all week at vlogging my life and explaining for the longest time why and the sentiment, my reasonings, and why I feel the way that I feel. And I feel that that is greater than any explanation. Like, I feel real live time posting live on the World Wide Web my explanations and my experiences is pretty heavy. Like, I don't know, like, I'm not here cyber stalking the other party, the law firm, or any of that. Like, I don't know what I'm saying is like I don't know what these people do in their daily lives, but I know that I live my life like, oh, this is a banner that's giving me notification about an update, but I vlog, and today it was weird how my day started. Like, it started with Sam checking in on me, which he has been doing as of lately since we linked up in person after the Bruce Lee event. It was the biography of Bruce Lee. The author had an event at a library, and that's where I met Sam. So we linked up in person. He's been just a great person to just, regardless of his intentions or motives, like, it just feels good to have people just check in on me and give me, like, I'm not looking for empathy or sympathy from anybody or to give me anything, but like Samuel, the young Samuel, he gave me a capo, and that just, I just, people have given me a lot of stuff at the shelter and not the greatest things. Like, Mr. Daniel had like probably old expired snacks and beef jerky and coffee packets or whatever in his pockets. And I wasn't ever like, Mr. Daniel, stay in touch with me forever, you know? But now that I'm building healthy interactions and positive, safe environments or like fostering around me, I feel like I was like, wow, like, hey, like the options there. Like, if people want to interact with me safely, then I'm open to it, and if they don't, then okay, like that's their free will, my free will. I have free will, and I can use my discernment and my judgment to interact with people safely or not. But I just feel that it's been discussed in conference, like in Zoom. It's it not only has it been discussed, as far as like handling of evidence, like these are jams arbitration rules. So maybe I can get my iPad really quickly. But I guess you guys can be with me on this journey of my train of thought and thinking and the explanation. I'm at 22%, but whatever. Like, so my thing is like these are like basic guidelines for the arbitration rules, and I feel that as a attorney and as attorneys that have their own law firms and work for law firms and represent these billion-dollar corporations, if you don't have basic understanding of how evidence is handled, and that, I don't know, it's super scary. And it's sad, but it's believable, especially having gone through what I've gone through. Nothing surprises me anymore. Like these federal attorneys that work with OSHA, Department of Labor, federal agencies, and they don't have the slightest idea of how evidence is processed or analyzed. I'm not phased. I'm numb to everything, just about everything. Even the doctors tell me that I have a very high tolerance to the most strong pain medication. So I am just like not phased by anything at all. Nothing surprises me. And so, like, not only is it like basic lay of the land of how evidence is processed through an arbitration, through the mediation company, and just overall, but the judge, on top of all of that, discussed how their preferences as far as the evidence was going to be transferred and handled was to be, and Josh Ordway just completely like disregarded the judge's guidance. So I responded to his communication, and he disregarded it, and I can probably pull it up, but he basically like, let's see. Oops. hard for me to type with my left hand, even on an iPad. So there are clauses, rules, and procedures through JAMS ADR. Clauses, rules, and procedures designed to meet the needs of all parties. Fair case review. Explore the virtual options. So I'll click on the link, ADR rules and procedures. JAMS mediation, arbitration, and ADR services. Okay, so now we're going to go to contact us. So we're going to go to the rules and the clauses. This is the and to be honest, like the reality, if I really wanted to be petty and difficult, like I have never signed a privacy release form. And even though I'm representing myself, that does not give James Mediation the right to be this invasive into my life. Can I share all of these things? Sure. I'm representing myself. They're my medical records, but there are processes under HIPAA and not just HIPAA, but the Privacy Act and other federal laws that don't allow jams to just do whatever they want. So I understand like it would benefit theoretically the defense to like have the judge strike all of the evidence, cool, but that's in theory like a strategy, but factually, if the judge were to disregard all of my evidence, it would only help my case. And I know that sounds super strange and super weird, but I feel like genuinely and authentically, the judge is the judge and is highly respected. And if the judge discussed off the bat how they had their preference and standard of how evidence was supposed to be handled, then that should have been respected. It was respected on both ends until Josh Ordway and Littler Mendelsohn Law Firm decided to do whatever they wanted and treat me like trash. And I didn't retaliate, but I'm like, hey, like you want to start, submitting documents and evidence, and I'll follow suit, So I did. And I know that I just started to look at this alleged 850 exhibits that I uploaded, and that's not factually true because factually, I had initial contact with Chris Brancato. And Chris Brancato was the guy who initially was mediating the communication between myself and Littler Mendelsohn Law Firm. So the first communications and the first exhibits had absolutely no like correlation. I mean, are they pertaining to my case in the case? Duh. But I feel like if you're gonna start clocking me and you're gonna start tallying how many exhibits were uploaded, then you need to start from my response. So they're already wrong for trying to tell me it's 850 exhibits in response to, you know, the guidance after. It's actually like I don't have it up. I can pull it up, but that's not. I'm like, hey, if you guys are gonna be this petty and say, well, Mr. Mendes uploaded 850 exhibits. Well, my question to you is, why the hell you haven't uploaded anything other than this petty crap and trying to silence me before the Epstein files were released and the week of the Epstein files being released? So I just feel like, that's more concerning. Like, if the American people knew that you were representing Tesla and that you had absolutely nothing to upload in defense of Tesla, like, that's super scary. Imagine every single person that has their life savings and investment put entirely into Tesla stock. And let's even say, like, real time today closing, Wall Street closing, how many people have closed off their trades and are waiting to pocket in another lump of change tomorrow or the next day, or even by the end of the week. And here they are without any form of exhibits or upload or defense. Like, that's super scary. And I think that the facts outweigh the reality. Like, factually, these people, I have every right under federal law to represent myself. And it's super sad that I've had two federal judges have to put that in writing for these idiots, but that's the reality of how these people have treated me and have continued to treat me. And I'm not saying that I'm sitting here being stubborn because of the lack of respect. I just started off this video vlog showing you guys factually a picture that had the remnants of that homeless shelter and that picture that survived with me through my homelessness. The homelessness that was sparked by being denied workers' compensation from a workplace injury inside of a Tesla vehicle, inside of a Tesla service center that came from Tesla Gigafactory Austin, that was in preparation for sales and delivery for somebody's enjoyment. And I was hurt in that process by dumb, hostile people. I was told by this guy named Kenny Lou, this child, he was super angry, aggressive, hostile towards me. He put me in an unsafe car, knowing that it was not safe, that it was dangerous to operate that car. He still forced me to get into that car. And I didn't want any problems. I didn't want to lose my job. This kid had already been super angry, frustrated, aggressive towards me. So was his little girlfriend, friend, April. This chick was super weird. Like, I don't have the words for it. And she slammed a red Tesla car door in my face. And the reason she slammed that red model Tesla, I'm pretty sure it was a Model Y, most of those were Model Ys, in my face was because when I arrived there, I noticed that every single vehicle coming through was arriving damaged from the factory, and they were not doing anything to report it or stop it. And suddenly one day, for some reason, I remember I was in the wash bay and I turned around after they pulled in the vehicle readiness specialist pulled in a blue Tesla Model Y into the wash bay, brand new from the factory. They pulled it into the wash bay, and I look at the entire back of it, and it's smashed in. The entire rear end of the Tesla was smashed in. This was a brand new Tesla from Austin, from Gigafactory. It was rear-ended, entirely smashed in. And I walked across the service bay, and there was this Hispanic technician. He didn't really speak much English, and I told him, I said, "Hey man, like, look at the back of this." And they just pulled it in this way. He said, "I've seen that team do way worse than that. And they do that all the time." And I was like, "And nobody does anything? Nobody says anything?" He said, "Nope." He said they scuff up the tires, they bring them in like that, and people take them. And at first I just thought, well, I'm the new guy here, like, I don't know. And then suddenly, right after that, I told Colin Naimira. Naimira allegedly wasn't in office at the time. And I told these people in operations, I told them about the vehicle damage in the cars and just what this team was doing. And Naimira calls me and she was like, "Oh, I'm not there on site today." But they were working, not working. That was often the narrative. They were on the clock but not at work. And of course, me, like an idiot, I was always on site. And so I guess Naimira, even though, just caused me more problems. Like, even though they were like, "Don't worry, we're gonna take care of it," like making it seem like, kind of like, to have that you can confide in me vibe. Don't worry, no retaliation involved. I'm documenting everything. So suddenly, like wildfire, everybody else starts retaliating against me because I said that vehicle came totally rear-ended, smashed in. And because I was the new guy, April and Kenny were the ones who operated that vehicle and brought it into the wash bay, started to put the blame on me and say that I was the one who wrecked the car and brought it into the wash bay. And I was just like, what in the world? Like, I I couldn't even believe that this was even like the spin on the story. Like, I'm the one who reported this car being entirely rear-ended, smashed. Like, the fact that, I don't know, the fact that police or whoever rear-ended that car or whatever they rammed into, like, that's beyond me. We'll never know. And so, because I reported that, and then I guess it was being looked into, Kenny and April started to like super have this hostility and be violent towards me in the workplace and treat me like crap. And then it escalated with April, like big time escalated with April. Kenny was more dialed down. I think Kenny, after that, he got super like hostile with me, like had these microaggressions towards me in the wash bay. Like, he felt like, I don't know. I guess I dealt with it kind of with my sister. So, like, Kenny had problems. I'm not saying my sister has problems, but like my sister likes to delegate a lot. But my sister works like she's worked 3 jobs at one time. She has like very like strenuous work ethic, and I can't even compare the two. But like, I think like when I showed Kenny in the wash bay, like, don't mess with me, I know what I'm doing, he left me alone. And he really didn't mess with me until the day he forced me to get into that car. And granted, there was times where like they had like luncheons or try to like smooth over all the problems that we had there, and they would still treat me like trash. And April was the first one who was super like racist and prejudiced towards me off the bat. Like, first day I was there, everybody arrived late except for me, and I guess she had an issue with that because I was the only one that witnessed her showing up like super late in the workplace. And not only would she show up like beyond late to work, but she would have, for whatever reason, she had like a company shuttle and used one of the company vans to go pick up this chick named Benaya with a F, Benaya something, Fagan, I think, Benaya. And they would just jack around every single morning. Like, April would show up to work just to go missing for hours to pick up Benaya to come to work. And by the time they came to work, it was basically lunchtime. So they would leave again in the shuttle van and go get whatever they wanted to eat and trash the van and show back up just to leave for the day and do the same thing over and over again. And so I really do believe that April was the one who, with that blue Model Y, did rear end or smash the car. So either somebody rear ended her in the streets and she never reported it, or she backed into something and still didn't report it. And I'd be super empathetic towards her and compassionate by saying, well, maybe it got damaged in transport from the factory. Either way, it was wrong. She never reported it. So, after the wash bay situation between me and Kenny, he left me alone. Granted, there were times here and there that were spotty, like he would still treat me like trash, but it dialed down until the day he forced me to get into the car that I had an accident in. And then when I returned back into the workplace, Kenny acted super brand new. He was like, "Hey, Evan, I heard you got into an accident." And I wasn't angry. If anything, I was just like, I remember just that very fast swiftness of like me walking in this direction and him walking past me in this direction and making that remark. And I just remember just like the brevity of it. Just, it was so swift that he had that kind of like super just inauthentic way of like, oh, I heard you got into an accident. Mind you, he's the one who forced me to get into that car. So he acted like super brand new, like he had no idea that I had an accident. And he was there the day that I had the accident and took photos and made a huge deal about my accident. And so April, on the other hand, after I reported the blue smashed in Model Y that was smashed in from the rear, and Kenny left me alone, she could not like handle the fact that people were investigating that smashed in blue Model Y. People started to investigate the vandalism that was happening in the church parking lot and investigating like them essentially because I was saying something. I said that the vehicles were not calibrated, that there was all this stuff in the workplace. People, some of my colleagues showed up to see what I was talking about and saw what I was talking about. And Global EHS and other people. And then, so this team, for whatever reason, and by this team I mean the vehicle readiness specialist and Kenny, Roman, Ziegler, whatever, Benaya, April, Colin, Amira, Alfred, a lot of other people there. I'm sure I can remember their names if I really thought about it. This other weirdo guy, I can't remember his name, Jay something, who knows, Toby. Anyways, a majority of the people there, they had access to software and certain things. How do I say this? Because it wasn't just software, but they had access to, there would be layers of, they basically had access to the cars, and they should have never, ever, 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 ever had access to the cars. One, you have to have a formal type of training. You had to have had these courses and training, and I think that it was a lot of like, where was I? You know, like sometimes, like when you're in HEB, like me, sometimes they get clearance items, like especially at HEB, and they're like, "Oh, you got too many clearance items. I need a manager override," and then the manager has to come put in these codes or like their account so that they can approve things. So I really do feel that it was a lot of like people who had that clearance logging in and other people letting other people use that account to, or like they would log into tablets and just tell them, okay, here, go inspect these cars, something like that. But none of them had the training to even have that remote access to these cars. So that was already big time wrong. And because they didn't have the proper training and because they were just taught willy nilly to do whatever the heck they were doing, this team would sit there inside of the service center bays and just at the desk, they would remotely open and unlock, do all kinds of crazy stuff to vehicles at the service center when the vehicles were about 4 or 5 miles down the road without any form of security or surveillance at a church parking lot. So they would unlock and open trunks, hoods, doors. They would do all kinds of crazy stuff and leave the doors wide open while they drive over there to get in the cars. And I was just like, God help me. Like, imagine these people opening the trunks of cars, the doors of cars, unlocking these cars. And if people, there were so many unhoused or homeless people, whatever, and it was at a church parking lot. So on top of being at a church parking lot, the church had volunteers that would go work in the garden. And so I'm like, imagine if these people that habitually are here at the church and the church has security and security cameras and watches them. Imagine if somebody took the initiative, which most of the homeless took initiative because they didn't have any problem opening up when the hoods were left open or whatever, the frunks were left open, vandalizing the cars. So I was like, imagine if somebody really had the guts to just get into the car and just take off in it. They could. because oftentimes these numbnuts would remote start the car from the laptops, and I can't make this stuff up. Oh, and on top of all that, they would get the key cards and leave the key cards inside of the Teslas overnight, or just in general. So it was a lot of unreal things, and because of all of that, April, I guess, felt, extra sets of eyes on her, like, whoa, that complacency that she had and was that safety net that she had of like driving off and showing up to work whenever she wanted to and just jacking off all day was dissipating. It was evaporating at a rate that it was just centered to a whole other degree of violence. One morning, Roman practically broke into the service center and kept banging and banging and banging on the bay doors for me to let him in. The alarm went off because he was doing that. I mean, I'm talking about the alarm for the whole facility went off. And because of all this, like, there I was left in freaking darkness trying to get out of there. And one, trying to, like, I didn't have the code to set off the thing, the security system. But I think that was the day where I really just was fed up and I had enough. I went the only place where I saw light, and maybe I saw light because of like the flood lights or something like that. Who knows? Everywhere was pitch dark, and I remember that there was some light coming from the restroom. So I went into the restroom, and I think that's where I like tapped out and I had enough. And I took pictures of inside of the restroom. And so then after things kind of like cooled down and this idiot wasn't banging, banging, banging on the bay doors, I open up the bathroom. I go through the front offices, the front main offices, and I pass the fish bowls to, it's, I guess to the employees it'd be the backside, but to the general public or the customers it'd be the front facing rear offices and the end of the service bay. But it would be the end of the service bay for the employees, but like the opening of the service bays to the customers. But that would be where the cars exited and not entered. So I went through that door. I saw one guy. He had a Tesla veteran shirt and a ponytail. I think this guy, gray hair ponytail, I think this guy was in charge of mail receiving. So he was in charge of like supplies, parts, and the mail in the back, where employees were supposed to come in and badge in, but they would all come in through the garage bay, the garage that was broken. So I saw him, and I'm like, okay, well maybe things are dialing back, but I still like paused, thought to myself, just kind of like steadily, I just paused, thought about like what my next move was, and I exited the safest way I knew how to exit, which was the same way that I badged myself in. And I let people, like, as I paused and I stopped, I text Alfred, I text Namir that the alarm was going off, what the code was, and they sent me the code, whatever. And I go out, and allegedly they said they were notifying police, which is a bunch of hooey fooey baloney, because I went out and I sat at the bench, and Namir was like, "Isn't Kenny there? He should be there already." And Kenny like steadily arrives late and shows up, and just, I really wasn't dealing with it anymore. I was just like, this is a bunch of baloney. These people trying to get it together, and they were just really messed up. So after that incident, April and Roman basically had it out for me their next shift. And I guess basically because at that point, everybody else was paying attention to when they arrived. Like, basically, they were showing up late. And so April steadily started arriving on time. And then It was one morning where it was me by myself because I was the only one always on time, and I'm almost positive Roman was coming in or almost there, but April, it's basically just me, April, maybe Roman's there somewhere, I don't know. I have the feeling that Roman was somewhere around or coming, and April just comes in like a shark in the water after me. And I'm just doing what I've been trained to do, usually do, keeping my head down and staying busy. And April just like has this violent hostility towards me. And I don't remember what the situation was, but I was like in fear that she was going to do something to me. So she just kept coming after me and coming after me and coming after me and talking crap to me, and God knows what else she was doing to me, that I just was like, this is not going to end well. Like, this woman is so hostile towards me. This is not going to end well. So, and I don't remember off the top of my head right now if this was before or after she had already slammed the Tesla car door in my face. And so I think it was after, because I remember running off to a tree in front, like I was still at the service center, but behind, so there were two rows of Teslas in the parking lot, and behind the second row there was like a tiny tree on the side of the dumpster. It wasn't really a dumpster, it was like a storage unit, and then across from the storage unit was the dumpster. They had all these open Tesla parts, like seats, parts, just openly there. And I went to that tree and I called Tesla security and I let them know what was happening to me. I said, "Hey, like, I'm here at this facility and there's absolutely no security here. There was no local security. There was not any local security. Like, I'm talking about Austin PD was not there. Any form of, like, how do you call those, courtesy officers, or like, there was no form of security there. Tesla security wasn't even there at that facility. There was no form of security there. Like, there was nobody, law enforcement or anyone, for me to go and ask for help from this crazy lunatic chick. And so I reported it. And then, and I'm almost positive, I said, this chick already slammed the car door in my face. Like, you know, something needs to be done about this chick. And for some reason, like, I didn't tell anybody in the workplace other than Gigafactory that I had called security on her. I told nobody at all. I would say like days and weeks piled up, like just added up. Then I show up to work and there's this older employee there. Like, I mean, older by like he had been there before April and Kenny. Like, he had been there quite some time as a vehicle readiness tech. And so I get in the car with him and April for whatever reason. And they're both just talking so much trash. They're both talking super vulgar about Alfred, about Jason, about everybody in the workplace. And I think off the top of my head, April was like, Jason and Alfred say that there's room for growth and promotion, and they're so full of, just talking crap, full of, all these vulgar profanities. And after that, Nymeria and Alfred call me into this fishbowl. They always call people into this fishbowl, round the clock every day. I think it was just BS. They call people into this fishbowl. And so Alfred and Nymeria call me into this fishbowl, and apparently my HR only made such a huge fuss because Nymeria is not a manager, and first of all, neither is Alfred. So I don't even know where this comes in, that it's right or wrong. I think it's entirely wrong. No matter how you paint a person or label it in this situation, it's wrong, because I'm highly qualified and trained to operate, repair, build, service, design these vehicles. This is a phony, like, hall pass monitor, Alfred, and then a phony operations, whatever. Like these people have no mechanical understanding of how to even start a Tesla. And so they just started drilling me about dumb stuff. And I just kind of like had enough because there was one point in time where they organized, like they would put phony stuff on the schedule, but nobody would show up. So they would add hours, like people were working and nobody would show up to the events or to work it. And there I was, the only person in the workplace, and I would ask like, "Hey, are we going to this meeting?" They're like, "No, it was canceled." So basically, they just put it on the calendar just to make it seem like they did something and they never did anything. And so one day they did this whole circle where everybody in the circle just did nothing but talk crap about me. And by the time it was my turn, I spoke, and I would say I was very kind, gentle, like the idiot that I was, and sweet and kind and simple. And finally, towards the end of everything, I kind of did say without hesitation, like, they were all just like, oh, because I was coming off like I was giving that energy, like I'm open to feedback. And at the end of it, I kind of gave them a taste of their own medicine and they got pissed. And I said, you guys, I said, everyone in this room is more preoccupied in the amount of Red Bulls and counting the amount of Red Bulls instead of in counting the amount of Red Bulls that people are drinking instead of counting the amount of vehicles that are being, you know, shipped out of this place. And instead of being preoccupied with the number of vehicles, they're preoccupied with the number of Red Bulls in the fridge. And they got so angry and pissed off. And I'm like, the fact that that's setting you guys all off, something is seriously wrong here in this room. Like, these people have problems. And I just left it at that. And so by the time Alfred and Imira bring me in, mind you, they don't know that I called Tesla security on April or on the facility. And they're still just having the run of their lives with me, like having this huge spectacular show of like treating me like trash